lesson. We are still on pitch. It's our fourth lesson, and today we are learning about note values on a bass clef staff. We shall be learning how to put pitch or how to put sounds on a staff that is specifically a bass clef staff. Now, before we learn how to place the note values on a bass clef staff, we want to know what is a bass clef, how is the bass clef used, and how is it drawn, and even how does a bass clef look like. So, the bass clef is also called the F clef. Why is it called the F clef? It is called the F clef because it helps us to establish line F on a bass clef staff. That is why we call it the F clef, because you all know, or as we know, is that when we are naming note values on a staff, we always use the first alphabet letters, that is A, B, C, D, E, F. So the bass clef here, when we want to start naming our notes or the pitch, we always locate the F line, and that is why this clef can also be called the F clef staff, because it helps us to locate where line F is on a bass clef staff. Now, this is how the bass clef staff this is how the bass or F clef sign looks like. It just looks like a question mark, only that when you want to draw it, you start with a dot, and then you put a curve, and then you leave like that, and then you add these two dots. Now someone will ask, is it important that you put the two dots? Yes, it is important. It is necessary because the dot on either side is necessary. These two dots here, they are necessary because they help us to know the position of F on a bass clef staff. Now, this clef, someone can ask, why is the bass clef or the F clef important to musicians? The bass clef or the F clef is important to musicians because it helps us to note the pitches of the male voices. The bass clef is specifically used to put the pitches of male voices, that is specifically tenor, bass, and all the other instruments within the male voice range. You will find them on a bass clef staff. So, how do we draw a bass clef staff? Now that we know what a bass clef is, now that we know how it looks, now how do you draw a bass clef staff? Now, just as we are seeing here, when you want to draw a bass clef staff, again, the first thing is that you must draw the staff. You will refer to the first lesson on my channel, and we said that a staff is a combination of 5 lines and 4 spaces. Let us see if we have done the right thing here. As we can see, we have our first line, second line, third line, fourth line, and fifth line. And we also want to check if we have the 4 spaces. This is our first space, second space, third space, and fourth space. Now, after drawing the staff, the next thing is that now you will want to place the bass clef or the F clef on the staff. So what do? You will count your lines from the bottom. That is line 1, line 2, line 3, and line 4. When you get to line 4, you will start by putting a dot on line 4 here, and then you will extend your curve. It should be within the fifth line and the fourth space, and then you come down here and stop at line 2. Then after this, you will come the fourth space and put the first dot, and the third space you will put your second dot. And we say that these two dots are very important because they help us to locate line F. As you have seen here, this is our line F. This one here is our line F, and we shall be using it when we shall be naming the note values on a bass clef. We shall see how important it is for us to have it. So today that marks the end of our lesson, and on our next lesson we shall be learning how to place note values on a bass clef staff. Now that we know what a bass clef is, we know how it looks, we know how to draw the bass clef staff. Now the next thing we shall be doing in our next lesson is just to place the note values on the bass clef staff. So today's assignment, please go and learn how to draw a bass clef staff. You will draw your 5 lines, you will count up to line 4, and then you will draw from there, and the 4th line will be our F line. Thank you so much.